Peter Taylor, who is a regular at Don Riley's Oakcliff Sailing. Volunteer there, and a stalwart volunteer is on. First from New York City, I'm Peter. Many others signing on from around the world. Welcome to all of you, including Gordon Smith in Denmark, Ed Worley in SoCal, Rick Bannerow in snowy Connecticut, Christopher and Jane Gillingham in Leamington in the UK. Interesting show today. Not only our esteemed longtime friend Don Riley of America's Cup around the world, and of course Oakcliff, really fame, one of the best sailors of her generation, our generation actually. She's not quite as old as I, but she's a Michigan girl. We can call her part of our generation,
got it.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Right.
We got a smile out of her anyway there, Julia, as we count down this one. Tom is our opening batsman. Yeah, we did a little testing. Pedro foiling sailor in Sydney. John Emmett's home on the farm. And let's get this one off the dock and through the starting line. Welcome. Bob Walker checking in from North Texas, where no doubt he was cheering for the Kansas City Chiefs over the weekend in the Super Bowl. Welcome, everybody. Show number 685. We got a big show today, Tuesday, the 13th of February. Clark Chapin checking in from gray and wintry Plymouth, Michigan, not far from where Dawn was born and raised in St. Clair Shores, just north of Detroit, and Clark's out west of Detroit, Detroit. Chris Fury checking in from Melbourne, Australia. And Graham Sweeney, who is AKA Today Marine Images on YouTube from Shetland up in Scotland. Welcome to all of you. And Joe Holtzman, Estes Park, Colorado. It's sunny, he says, in Colorado today. John Hanfield, Newport, Rhode Island, and on and on and on. Julia, I trust you are well.
I am well, thank you.
Any hot? Well, that was enthusiastic. We're live again in Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club in somewhat sunny San Francisco. Any hot tips, Julie, before we get going?
No, but I suggest downloading the 49er Disappointment and uploading Mardi Gras.
Yeah, I think we'll get to that's why you're in red. What's that around your neck?
Well, it's a Mardi Gras
icon, emblem?
Yes, and straight from New Orleans.
Nice. We want to thank from our show, great show that we had on Friday too. We've had a string of them here. Delighted that we were to have Julesia, Lily Zhu, Golden Lily, who was on from Hong Kong, just a bit north and east, I think, of Hong Kong, with her parents and with the sailing team, the Chinese national sailor. I guess it was the Shanghai sailing team, not the national team, where she's doing some coaching as well as a lot of media work. She's the gold medalist in 2012 and was the bronze medalist in 2008. Thanks, Lily, for coming on. And she helped us celebrate the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year, as we went from the year of the what, Julia?
Dragon?
To?
From the year of the rabbit to the year of the dragon.
The year of the rabbit to the year of the dragon. That's correcto mundo.
Yes.
Thanks, Lily, for coming on and doing that. Also, thanks to Captain Jack John Schaefer of Super Fozy, really by now, in Annapolis, Maryland, whose first segment we did on Friday's show was safety at sea.
That's going to be a really good thing.
I totally agree. Don't you think he was good?
He was very good.
Indeed. Thank you, Captain Jack. And speaking of the Super Bowl, as painful as it is,
they're being like, what's going on?
The winning touchdown in overtime, a play they had not used, a play that the San Francisco 49ers could not put into. They had nothing like it at the other end of the field just before. Maybe they would have come away with a win in overtime. Instead, this coach just didn't seem to have it, Julia.
No, didn't understand overtime.
And apparently they didn't understand overtime. That was a bit croutonic, too.
Yes.
But it was a great play. Mr. Hardman and his quarterback, bravo Zulu to Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the San Francisco Chiefs. They are having a big parade tomorrow.
The San Francisco Chiefs.
Sorry, the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm still, it's wishful thinking on my part. We'd love to see them having won it because it really came down to the coaching, I think. The teams are both very, very good, strong defense, but Kyle Shanahan, who's the coach of the 49ers, just could not seem to get it together. This is his, fifth or sixth time that he's either been a coordinator or a head coach and not been able to win the brass ring, win the big one, whereas Mr. Reed, the coach of Kansas City, has won now quite a number of them, including 3 of the last, 4 or 5. They won last year, and then so they had a bit of a three-peat here. And both teams, the Stingray said, have played an excellent game. Thoughts going out to Ronnie Simpson. Yeah, that's tough. We'll talk about that in a moment. Clark saying, I'm glad the NFL changed the overtime rules. Yeah, it's more like college now. The previous method was unfair and croutonic.
But it would also be good if everybody understood it.
Well, even the announcers didn't understand it.
I know.
And Julia, we were watching the game together, and we didn't understand it. We thought that it was the old rule, and we didn't realize it had been changed for the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And apparently the coaching staff
didn't know either.
At the San Francisco 49ers didn't know either. Okay, enough of all that. Yeah. These two, the second half, the 49ers could not defend Mahomes and Kelsey. And if I have to see one more picture of her, I am a fan. I like her music. I love her music. But I think CBS, who were covering it, just got a little carried away with all of the Swiftie photos, images.
But not the 120 million people who have followed.
That was good. You knew that was the next slide.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. Julia did not know that was the next slide, but she's very smart as usual. CBS Sports Super Bowl 58 broadcast is the most watched telecast in history with 123.4 million people tuned in. The viewership was up 7% from last year's record-setting broadcast. Julia, do you know what the largest telecast in the history of the world is? Other than this. What was
this one.
Number 2 after this one? Do you know what it was?
Maybe the landing of the moon.
Well done! Bravo, Zulu! Largest telecast since 1969, the moon landing. Mm-hmm. Julia, what are we celebrating today? You've already said it.
Mardi Gras.
Indeed we are.
And I'm ready to celebrate.
But we're not. We're celebrating Brazilian Carnival.
All right.
Also today, February 13th, of course.
And being celebrated in San Francisco.
It's being celebrated all over.
I know.
In fact, they have the huge one in Houston, Texas, and other places. But let's talk a little bit, because it is a cultural phenom, particularly in Catholic countries and Christian countries. But starting in Brazil, which is reputed to be the largest. We like to take credit for it in New Orleans, but Carnival in Brazil, in Rio, is a big deal. And here is a video from Sunday's parade leading up to it with all of the samba schools in force. Have a look. Six samba schools. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Massive stuff. It makes Taylor Swift pale by comparison. Yeah, apparently she added, $350 million to, somebody said. I saw a number like that as well. But bravo Zulu to her. And as you all know, Brazilian Carnival is celebrated on the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday, which is, of course, tomorrow. And the upcoming date falls on February 13th this year. That is Carnival on Fat Tuesday, as we call it here. The carnival is marked by colorful costumes, samba music, and dance, grand parades, and food festivals. It is the perfect opportunity to engage in overindulgence before starting the period of Lent. The Carnival depicts several different cultures, primarily Portuguese and African. A lot of tourists from around the globe are eager to participate in what they call the world's biggest carnival. It fills the atmosphere of Brazil with joy, enthusiasm.
Yes, and I have a good authority because I did it myself. It's best to do it before it begins, to visit before it begins, because you can see more and not engulfed in all the...
And it goes on for weeks.
Yeah.
Like it does in New Orleans, which really starts at right after Christmas. And speaking of New Orleans, what does Bourbon Street look like during Mardi Gras? Well, here's the view over the weekend from the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. Mm-hmm. There it is, purple, yellow, or gold, I guess, and green. Have you been to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, Julia?
Before.
And
because everybody I know who lives in New Orleans leaves town during Mardi Gras.
Dawn will remember we used to do that in March during Las Fallas in Valencia as well. Right? She's shaking her head yes, nodding her head yes.
Yes.
As you all know, again, it's just Tuesday, but in New Orleans today, it's Fat Tuesday. Mardi Gras, however, is actually the last day carnival celebration. They started, as I said, after Christmas. New Orleans has been reveling in purple, green, and gold since January 6th, or the 12th night. Parades have rolled, throws have been caught, king cake has been eaten, and who knows how many hand grenades and hurricanes, which are drinks, of course, have been sold in the French Quarter. Let's look at some more of these slides. Just quickly, what goes on Bourbon Street. I've been there once, but not in many, many years. My favorite slide of all of these, free anti-depression hugs.
Great.
I think he's probably a bit of a perv, that one, but who knows? There they are up on the balcony throwing the beads and more, and a bit of dancing going on. And here is the 1-minute history, according to another YouTube channel in New Orleans, about the 1 minute, I should say, history of Mardi Gras.
The history of Louisiana Mardi Gras in under a minute. The roots of Mardi Gras can be traced all the way back to ancient Rome as a pair of pagan festivals that celebrated the beginning of spring. People wore colorful clothes, slaves got off work, people gambled, and a few goats and a dog were sacrificed. Unlike today's king cakes, where you find tiny plastic babies inside, beans were baked in cakes, and whoever found it was the king of the day. Eventually, Christianity came to Rome. The French Catholics named the celebration Mardi Gras, which means Fat Tuesday. A French-Canadian explorer named John Baptiste brought Mardi Gras to Louisiana, where the first recorded festival took place in 1703. Today, New Orleans has the world's largest Mardi Gras celebration, where folks dress up in green, purple, and gold, construct massive floats, and hurl beads, toys, cups, and other cheap plastic items at parade goers. People dance, have feasts, throw parties, and go to balls.
Now, you notice he said 1703 to Louisiana. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the state. The state didn't exist. It was the Louisiana Territory.
Yes.
Because he really started in another city that was in the Louisiana Territory, no longer today. And that video, however, thanks to the LA Crawfish Company's YouTube channel. And do you know, Julia, what city this is? That's where Mardi Gras actually started in 1703, the modern day city called...
No, I don't know.
Mobile,
Alabama,
which was then the capital city of the Louisiana Territory. Okay. And to relate this all, as we always do, back to yachting, back to yacht racing, the Mobile Yacht Club is one of the oldest in the country. It was founded actually before the New York Yacht Club. It was founded in the 1840s, but it was dormant through the Civil War, so it has not been continuous. Mm-hmm. So the oldest club in this country is, in fact, the New York Yacht Club at 44th Street. There is their corporate seal from 1865 when they incorporated. They were organized, as you probably know, in 1844, incorporated in 1865. But there is one club older than New York in North America, and not the Detroit Boat Club, which Dawn and I will know has started and really has been a rowing club until fairly recently. It's a sailing club as well on the Detroit River in Belle Isle. From our home state, the oldest club, Julia,
Yes.
in North America. Here's your first clue. See if anybody else knows. Andy Armstrong, hello from the Hampton Yacht Club in Hampton, Virginia. It's Pancake Day. Graham Sweeney is saying in the UK. Get your king cake, Baton Rouge in Charleston is saying.
Oh, yes.
The oldest sports event in the UK started today, resumes tomorrow. The Shrove Tide football match started in the 1660s, based in Ashbourne, Derbyshire in the UK. Thanks, Gordon Smith. John Schaefer saying hello to Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And what have the Romans ever done for us, David James? A classy one is in Venezia.
Mm-hmm.
Stingray's been to Mardi Gras in Venezia. Lots of them. He forgot Mobile, yeah, Baton Rouge, I got it for him. So it was. Pass Christian, no. In Canada, Ed Worley's asking. Gordon Smith gets it. Halifax, Canada. What's the name of the yacht club? Here's your second clue.
Wow.
In Halifax. Huh? Julia?
I don't know.
There's a famous race. Dawn is sitting, she knows. I'm going to go to Dawn. I'll bet you she knows. Dawn, welcome to the show. A little earlier than we said we'd bring you in. What's the club is that?
I assume that's the Royal Halifax.
Almost. Royal.
Halifax race. What's the name of the club, Ethan?
There's another,
Royal Nova Scotia.
there you go. There's another clue on the slides now. The Royal Nova Scotia Yacht Squadron. Beautiful club. And it is the home of the Halifax race, the Newport Marblehead Halifax, isn't it?
Marblehead.
Royal blah, blah, blah. Steve Gruber is saying indeed. And it is the Royal Nova Scotia Yacht Squadron, the oldest club in North America, 1837, according to the North American Yacht Register. And I went back and looked at a few others, Wikipedia and else. And I think this list is authentic, and I think it's authoritative. New York in 1844, the Midshipman Sailing Club at the Naval Academy in 1847, Pass Christian Yacht Club down in the Mississippi, 1849, and the esteemed Southern Yacht Club, Lake Pontchartrain, Louisiana, 1849. As Vice Commodore, speaking of New York Yacht Club, Vice Commodore Claire Harrington has checked in saying hello to Dawn.
Aha.
Claire's become Dawn. She's become a regular on here, watching the show, and we're going to get her on here soon. It's finally New York has a female in the pipeline, going up the flags. A lot of other people have had Commodores. Do you know who the first Commodore, Dawn, was of a major yacht club in this country? Who and when?
That was female? No.
Alamedas Bay Yacht Club.
Okay.
The late, great Adra Kober, leading up to the 1984 Olympics. She was Commodore of Alamedas, of ABYC, before it was, it was cool to have a female Commodore, because she was just so competent. And then
Shame on her.
And she,
just to clarify, at those days, often women weren't even allowed to be members.
Indeed.
Right.
Indeed. And Julia, by the way, maybe you know this, Don, was among the first or second female member on your own volition, your own right, not as a spousal member of St. Francis.
Yeah.
And the first female chair of the
House Committee,
one of the three important committees in the club. Dawn, have you been Commodore of a club?
No, I'm not really a clubby kind of person. Actually, I was Commodore of Ship 147 at North Star Sail Club, which was the closest thing we could get to a junior sailing program.
I saw that on Wikipedia that you were the Commodore of that. It was a junior club, right? It was a
No. Everybody who wants to put it into their own parlance, it was Boy Scouts of America, Sea Scouts, and to be fair, there's no such thing as a Commodore, but we decided there was one. So at North Star Sail Club and Harrison Township, we always had a Commodore.
But isn't North Star Sailing Club itself is a club like Crescent or Grosse Pointe or any of the other clubs?
Yep.
So your Sea Scout program was based at that club, and you were the Commodore of the Sea Scout program. Mm-hmm. May I call you Commodore?
No.
Commodore Don Riley, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, no.
Delighted to have her on the show.
Got her blushing.
Royal Nova Scotia Yacht Squadron, the oldest club in North America. We love clubs. They are the heart, like sailing centers, like Oakcliff is as well. We also love our patrons via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Keeps us on the air. And thanks to all of you who are patrons and do keep us on the air. Welcome to show number 685, live from Oakcliff. We have Executive Director Commodore Don.
Don't do that to her.
Commodore Don Riley. Once a Commodore, always a Don. I always called her Dawnable. And I don't know if you like Dawnable during the America's Cup. When you called me chairman, I called you Dawnable.
I think what did we say you wanted to be? The commissioner.
No, when I was
Chairman.
chairman of the Challengers Commission, they started calling me chairman. Chairman. Making fun of me. Just before we get on to you full time here, we talked briefly in the pre-show. You read this in French this morning, but there's the suspicion of cheating during the last Vendée Globe, according to L'Equipe, the famously good French newspaper, sports paper. And apparently they're asking, did two skippers, one at sea and one on land, cheat during the last Vendée Globe? Weather assistance or routing is strictly prohibited. That is from outside assistance. It is a foundation of this exceptional adventure. This is all according to L'Equipe. Without assistance, without stopovers, and without a teammate, a solo race where the individual faces himself or herself and the elements. L'Equipe reporting that a document suggests, and I've seen some of the I haven't seen the documents, but I've seen excerpts from those documents, some emails back and forth between the skipper and a support team member on land, suggests that a skipper was routed, which is against, we say routed in Michigan, don't we, Don?
Rooted.
No, we
say route. Yeah.
we say routed. Do you say rooted, Julia?
No, that's a different thing.
That's a different thing, especially if you're an Aussie or a Kiwi.
That's very different.
That's why we cheer for the 49ers. We don't root for them.
That's exactly right.
Come on, we've had that before on here, but routed.
Routed.
A document suggests that a skipper was routed, which is against the founding principle of the race during the 2020-2021 Vendée Globe. The French Federation, the FFV, has opened an investigation on the subject. Dawn, any thoughts on this sad development?
They will come to the conclusion. The FFV will absolutely look into this. I'm sure. Obviously, the FFV is the equivalent of U.S. sailing, and they'll look into it. And the French are very proud of the single-handed side of things. And I agree with races that don't allow weather routing. A lot of times now, when you're out there with an autopilot, you already have the computers, you already have the expedition, you have the software, you have the sensors. There should be something that you have to do. Weather routing to me, it's kind of like you're going around on a video game.
I know it. It's a little cheating.
Good points, as usual. Well, the other thing they've done, the FFV, I read this morning, have already asked the organizers to reappoint a jury, so that they're not going to jump into this. They're going to have a new jury of the Vendée Globe, the organizing authority, which is the proper thing to do. I'm glad to see the FFV is following the proper yachting procedures. John Schaefer saying 100%, Dawn. I agree with your sentiments about the race and about single-handed racing. So, okay, anything else on that, Julia or Dawn? I see that you got the first finger wag here, Julia.
Uh-oh.
And not Alistair, who had a big storm out at his holiday home outside of Melbourne last night, Metung. He's saying that we had a huge storm. He's trying to follow the show, and they had power and everything, so he apologizes for not being on. But he is still with Peter Harkin, Randy Repass, and, of course, himself and their spouses. And it is, he submitted an AAA, an Alistair's Awesome Aussie Anecdote, which I did not put in the show, because it's a long show anyway, and I'll run it on Friday.
Okay.
Terrific stuff. You know Peter Harkin. You know Alistair Murray? You must know Alistair, Don.
Yep. Peter and Edit are good friends of mine, and I see everything Peter's doing because Edit, his wife, is on Facebook.
Indeed. Okay, let's formally welcome Dawn to the show. She, the executive director of Oakcliff Sailing Center, better known just as Oakcliff or Oakcliff Sailing. She is a tower of power and a major contributor to our sport, as well as a hell of a good sailor in her own right, to say nothing of being a cool Michigander, as we say, not Michiganian, Michigander. She was born in '64. She's a pioneer in the sport of sailboat racing, a member of the National Sailing Hall of Fame and the International America's Cup Hall of Fame, the youngest and only female to be a dual famer. She sailed in 4 cups, 4 America's Cups, and 2 Whitbread Around the World races, now called, of course, the Ocean Race, after it was the Volvo for a while. She was the watch captain on Maiden, the first all-women's entry in that Whitbread race, and was the team captain of the first all-women's team in the America's Cup for Bill Koch 1995 in San Diego. She later established the America True Foundation, and that was actually an America's Cup team in 2000 down in Auckland. And that foundation continues, based here in San Francisco, if I remember well, and that's to encourage youth participation in sailing. She was the GM of a French syndicate. Was it Arriva, Dawn?
Yes, Arriva, K Challenge, and then Arriva.
Arriva in the 2007 Cup, which was based in Valencia, Spain, and since 2010, she has run Oakcliff Sailing, dedicated to building American leaders through sailing. And welcome, Dawn, to the show formally.
Yes.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys.
Thank you for coming on. And we've had this teed up for a while. We didn't see you when you were on the West Coast, but you were out here, celebrating your sister who still lives here, and what else?
Well, I was there to see her new home, which is in Mendocino, just in time for the storm to come through and have no power.
Okay.
So we went wine tasting to kill some time and then had wine and candles. But I was really there to go on the Queen Victoria cruise ship, and it was supposed to be from Cabo up, and it all got canceled. And I ended up doing the world's shortest cruise from the America's Cup Pier, which is right next to Pier 17, where America True started, to the cruise ship, or the place where they had the X Games down by South Beach Yacht Club. So we went under the Bay Bridge.
Oh, good.
That was the length of the cruise?
That was it.
Well, you're back in Oyster Bay, New York now, the headquarters for Oakcliff Sailing Center. Before we get to more about Oakcliff and Dawn, I just want to get your reaction to this gal. I asked you in the pre-show and the tech check if you had met her. You have met her, or you know her or know of her?
I don't think I've met her. Kat Chimney, who's one of our graduates, was a pretty key part of her prep team, and sailed with her on the Bermuda 1-2.
Oh, cool. So a member of your Oakcliff team knows her well, has sailed with her. Well, we've been following her. She's become very popular with the Fozy around the world. We've checked in now for the last, 3, 4, 5 shows with Cole Brower. Not checked in literally, but we will get her on the show if at all possible. Maybe your colleague, Dawn, can help us do that. That may be the closest connection we have. But since she passed Cape Horn on the 26th of January, we've been following her. And she's making rapid progress now up the last leg of her around the world journey. She's in the South Atlantic still. This is the slide from last Friday. You'll see her down there at the bottom. Now she's up off the, what do we call that, Dawn? We're trying to figure out, what's that called, that easternmost point of South America?
I don't know. I've never been to Africa. She's not off of South America in that shot. She's off of Africa.
No, she's the blue boat.
Oh, she's down there. Okay.
What's that called of South America? That horn. Somebody must know. Nobody seems to know what this.
I should know, but I don't.
And this is her opponent up here, Dawn. This is the guy that's running first. She's in second, and this is as of the 13th of February. She's going 9.3 knots. At 155 degrees, so she's on, that was earlier today. But Bravo Zulu Tour, and here is her, I keep going on her Instagram, and every morning she's filing an Instagram report. This may be the best one yet.
Yeah.
Back to where we moved out to the places races. I bought it in a can and stirred it with my fingers. Threw it out the window. Lately you've been there, suspicious for the winter. Legs like little splinters.
Okay, so you can see it's a little fun. She's not afraid of her femininity, but she's obviously a very tough character and a hell of a good sailor. Dawn, any comments before we start to end with a few questions?
On that?
On
Instagram?
anything.
Okay, I was just thinking, kids nowadays. I've gone around the world twice, and I exfoliated once with a green scrubby pad. We definitely didn't have showers, et cetera, et cetera.
No.
So it's a totally different type of racing.
Yeah, let me go back to the comments on that Instagram. I try to grab one or two. Today I grabbed 3 because the impact she is having on kids through her Instagram and their parents. This is Diane Scott, whom we don't know. I don't know. I'm blown away with you. Your sense of self, courage, strength, your ability to thrive, so inspiring. Grateful to tag along from just a couple hours ago this morning. What a hero, Babink412 says. How do you find the time? You are truly inspiring. My 15-year-old son and 13-year-old daughter are following you. You are a great role model. And I just love the normality of this voyage. None of the toothbrush cut in half, wear the same clothes for the entire trip with only personal items allowed if they fit in a matchbox. Mentality of the offshore racer that we see so often. That's from a Howard Bates 4. Julia, Dawn, what do you think of that?
I guess I'm a toothbrush cut in half kind of girl.
You are? Okay. Stingray wants...
Again, I want to say she's doing a phenomenal job of bringing sailing to the public, which is one of the things that we're trying to do. It's a different type of competition than, say, the ocean race.
For sure. For sure. Stingray is asking, she's saying, ask Dawn, a hero of mine, if she thinks Kayard is who stole the U.S. So we're going to come to that, Stingray. We're going to talk about the Olympics. And there are... This John Hanfield in Rhode Island saying, in the past 25 years, 2 people have built our sport like no other and are responsible for the growth in youth sailing. Dawn and Brad, meaning Brad Reed, at another fabulous community sailing center, Sail Newport. If it weren't for Dawn, we wouldn't have a Cole or many other young sailors. Kudos for Dawn getting the U.S. youth to want to do offshore sailing and get out and fight the mighty French.
Yeah.
Dawn.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think there are a lot of people working towards the same thing. I've just been able to hopscotch from something that I thought was just for a little tiny bit to be able to be a professional. Now that I'm getting close to 60, I've been doing it for many years, considering I started professionally when I was about 15.
Mm. Another friend of yours and ours, Fozy, Larry Kennedy, saying, Hola from Oakcliff Sailing, most loyal bimbo. And bimbo means?
Brotherhood of the International Mark Boat Operators. But now they say body.
Yeah.
The first time they gave me a shirt with a pink bimbo across the back, I was not impressed. I had to be educated.
Yeah, it's no longer Brotherhood. It's now something else.
The body.
The body, is that what it is?
Yeah, so Larry is phenomenal, and our volunteers are incredible here. We run, 14 graded match racing events every year. We have the Triple Crown regattas, which we're increasing, and we couldn't do it without them. And we're actually having a race event organizer boot camp in conjunction with one of our regattas. So it can go from everything of, we use Larry's video of how to rope a mark and different systems that he's put into place and invented, what software systems to use, and how to make the Dawnwich sandwiches. So there's a fair amount that we're doing that's not a rule book and a judge's test, umpire test, or race admin test. And Larry's a big part of that one.
Indeed. Bravo Zulu to him. And I just want to read a couple more key comments here. It's Cape Bronco, Branco, Ted Ryman, who is in Cape Town, South Africa, says.
Thank you.
Larry saying it's amazing what happens at Oakcliff.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of yours, Cindy Alton Delato, saying, hey, Dawn, from snowy Newport, Rhode Island. And on and on and on. Let's
go back and read the comments when you have a minute.
Oh, good point.
Yes.
Julie always reminds us and everybody watching to go back, and Dawn, you too, because I can only read we get 300 a show, and it's hard to read everyone on here. If you're just joining us live on the show or in replay, we leave the comments on, by the way, in replay. Dawn Riley, the esteemed leader in our sport of many different facets, but of course, especially of Oakcliff Sailing in Oyster Bay, New York. She is with us today, and we'll be taking your questions throughout the show, or at least the first half of the show, as we wrap up this segment with Cole Brower. I just should mention, too, that she is still in second place. Her ET estimated time of arrival, or ETA, her distance to finish, is still just under 4,000 miles now, and her estimated finish date over there on the far right is the 4th of March. That's European dating. So Bravo Zulu Tour, we'll keep following that, and thanks to her and everybody who's showing such great interest in her. Let's go to Dawn now to explain what is it about Oakcliff that has you with the claim, Building American Leaders. I took this right off your website this morning, Building American Leaders Through Sailing.
Well, you're looking in the photo at a couple of them. Leck is a supporter that was on the race to Cuba a few years ago. Sean O'Halloran is with American Magic. Ethan Johnson is our training director. So these are people. Sean, I can tell the whole long story, but basically he learned to sail at a Sea Scout camp. He then watched YouTube, so talk about people like Cole, where there's just a different learning, a different communication system, and he earned his spot here and worked his ass off and made it through the open tryouts with Terry, was on the sailing team last time around.
Terry Hutchinson, American Magic.
Yeah, was a grinder, qualified on the sailing team by just working really hard, and is now the boat captain of the 40s.
For New York Yacht Club's American Magic. Anything else in just kind of in general terms about Oakcliff?
The reason why we came up with Building American Leaders Through Sailing is because we train in match racing, in high performance, in offshore, in the race admin. We're innovative, we're flexible. We never say no, we just say, I don't know, let's figure out if we can. And there's so much happening on top of the training in the sail loft, which is just behind me, the boat shop, which if you can hear, they're working on some composites, fixing a Match 40 that got smashed. Then also talking about the budgets and the marketing and the sponsorship. There was so much happening, but throughout it all, we say that the most important thing is that you are good humans. So you are trying hard, working hard, trying to do the best thing, being above board, whether you become a boat captain, so you're in charge of an owner's checkbook or credit card nowadays, that's even old, an owner's Venmo, or you are running a business, or you are a coach or a yacht club program director, you have to make sure that you are doing the right thing at all times and thinking about everybody else. which is leadership. So you earn that leadership through hard work and being a strong, ethical person.
You call official partners, or you, I guess, Oakcliff as an official partner of 11th Hour Racing, which has just won the Charlie Enright and Co. just won the Round the World race with IRIS, the School of Technology and Trades in Newport. It used to be the International Yacht Restoration Foundation or School. New York Yacht Club's American Magic. And how about the U.S. Performance Academy there in the lower right? What is that?
So U.S. Performance Academy is essentially what we old people would call a correspondence school that is designed just like when you're going skiing and gymnastics and all the other sports when you're young and you still have to go to high school. It's an accredited school in all 50 states. And we became partners with them during COVID. So during COVID, we had an on-site high school in the bubble. Our password was "No licking strangers," our slogan, because they were all together. We had no issues with COVID here, and they got their education while at the same time being able to go sail as a bubble or cohort, whatever you want to call it, and train. That is still a partnership if you get to the point where you need to choose between sailing and your brick and mortar school, or if you're the kind of person that just does better in a different environment. So it's here as availability. Am I trying to tell everybody if they're sailing that they have to leave their high school and not go to prom and come to Oakcliff? No.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did you say no licking strangers?
Yes, I got tired of trying to define at the morning meeting that we have here every day
During COVID.
at 9 o'clock. They would, during COVID, they would say, so I met somebody and they are a nurse. No, I met somebody. So there was so many like pushing the envelopes. Finally, I just burst out one day, no licking strangers. And that became our
That's
thing.
lovely.
Julia,
Sir.
you could give a finger wag to the first time a finger wag to a female, except I think it's perfect.
I think there's nothing wrong with that.
I think
There's
it's
nothing wrong.
No, I know. I know. Stingray, that will stimulate some crotonic comment from Stingray and
that's
a
going to
few
be his problem.
probably Ted Ryman and a few others. No, and it's, the truth is it turns out now, sadly,
Right.
with all the latest information, don't lick somebody, don't share glasses and forks and so on, and probably even that. Man, the whole COVID thing is coming a cropper, but we won't get into that today.
No.
Please don't. Let's talk about sailing.
Nothing wrong with a good lick. See, I told you Ted Ryman would come back, and on and on and on. John Hanfield, here is a good comment. I would have sold a kidney in the 80s to have a chance to go to a place like Oakcliff.
Ah, yes. Nice.
You see, we're already over 100 comments.
Mm-hmm.
Great to see. Go ahead, Dawn.
Can I just say,
Please.
It's 15 and above. So when I mentioned Cole Brower's with Cat Chimney, her father was our oldest acorn in the high performance camp. And so he was 60 and the kids were 15, 16, 17. And the only time it became awkward is when his girlfriend wanted to come visit because there's no alcohol allowed upstairs. So she had to take him out of the program to go to the bar to have a glass of wine. So anybody can come as long as you're over 15.
Lovely.
David James, who's a good friend of ours across the bay, a member of both San Francisco, you probably know David, and St. Francis Yacht Club. He's saying, in nice contrast with today's junior sailing programs, which consist of opti windward lewards over and over.
Yes, he's been big on that.
John Emmett saying, no licking is putting the bar pretty low. And I told you, Dawn, it would spawn some comments. Tom Pace, who you and I both know, in fact, when I met Tom, it was in your company, and we had a cocktail, the three of us, down in someplace at some kind of a... Where was that?
San Diego.
San Diego was at the U.S. Sailing National Sailing Seminar, right? Forum. What was that called?
I think that was the Leadership Forum.
Leadership Forum. And Tom Pace is saying, take the fun out of it. Sheesh. Okay, we have to have a little bit of fun on it. Dawn, let's go to the next comment, next section here. You're very keen on match racing. And as you know, and Julia, we all know, this is a courtesy of James Pleasance, who sent this to me just before we went to air. World Match Racing Tour has become a big part of your organization there at Oakcliff, right? And
Yes.
they've just announced their 2024, the full tour. And we cover it pretty extensively on here because we have a lot of FOSI that like it. We also agree with you that it's an important key part of the sport. And if I've counted this up, I did check back with James, but indeed there are 15 events in 10 countries this year. A bunch here in the U.S. We'll get into that in a moment. But starting with the first stage, as James is calling it, the executive director, James Pleasance, the executive director of the WMRT, the first event or regatta is the Ficker Cup here in Long Beach, the 13th through the 16th of April, and then wraps with the final in Shenzhen in China, the 10th through the 15th of December. So fully 15 events in how many countries did I say?
15.
10 countries, 15 events in 10 countries. So bravo Zulu to them. I note, Dawn, on your website, you have an extensive match racing program, including one of these events, the Oakcliff International Grade 2, which is part of the, well, you have the Oakcliff International, the 13th through the 14th of July, which is a qualifier, and then you've got the International Grade 2, part of the tour, part of the Grand Slam, which is August 3rd through the 6th. Why is match racing such a big part of your program at Oakcliff?
I just want to clarify the July 4th time. That is the Academy, which is also in the Grade 3. Right after that is a qualifier for the International. The International is in August.
Copy.
But the reason why we do match racing so much is because, first of all, Hunt Lawrence, who is our original main benefactor, has an attention span that makes him want to get back to read financial documents. So he loved match racing just because it's quick and it's done and you have a result.
Yeah.
But for us, we talk about this throughout our website, and that there is no opportunity to go and sail for 20 minutes to the right side and get a big shift and come in. You come in and be ahead. It's offense, defense. It's stay between your guy and the hoop. It's all those things that sports has, intensity, and you're always learning. And then even if you've had a shocker of a race, you have to buck up, get ready, and go race again. So it's massive amount of training. Yes, it is windward lured, but I can tell you that when the pain is over or the joy happens in 12 minutes and you're doing it again, it's a pretty intense, fun event. And it's not only fun for the racing, it's fun for Larry and the bimbos, the umpires, the race committee, and it's easy to cover as well, so for the public.
It's easy to understand. It's a key part of this.
It is.
Andrew Pindar is saying the Oakcliff Swedish Match 40s might be aging, but they remain excellent boats for match racing, which ties into a couple other questions, David James and others, about symmetrical A sails versus S sails, symmetrical kites in match racing. What's your views on all of that?
Well, we have S sails and spinnaker poles, and it makes it so that the bow person is actually one of the strongest people, probably the strongest person on the boat often on these boats. And it works for us for the traditional match racing covering, moving from behind and trying to advance. It works for us. What we don't like is the crashes. So we do have pig sticks off the back of the boat that I recommend anybody doing match racing does. And they're basically just ski pole sticks off the back that are Velcroed on. So that extends the corners of the boats. We did have a massive crash last year in a grade 5. And if you look at our Facebook page, they did Facebook Live because I was at the National Sailing Program Symposium. I wanted to see it. So I texted, do it Facebook Live, and they had to cut the deck off and lift it up on a chain pole and then move it forward. And we have one of our winter saplings who, fortunately or unfortunately for her, said that she wanted to do more composites work. So I said, we have a project for you. So she's learning all about scarfing and core and engineering and a lot of sanding, vacuum bagging.
Dawn, what is a sapling and what is an acorn? What are the other levels at Oakcliff?
Yeah, so acorns, there's different programs in the offshore match racing, high performance, Midwest, and the 12 meter. And those are shorter programs, and those are generally, but not always, for people that are younger or older. In other words, people that have school and are over scheduled, or they have a real job and they're considering changing careers or going cruising around the world or something like that. The sapling program are the ones that are here full time. In the winter, it's more of an apprenticeship program on the rigging, the sail making, the composites, those types of things. And the summer, it means that you get to navigate your course through all of those programs. And generally, unless you find out that you're severely seasick, like we had a couple people last year, they work from being wherever they are to as a trainee, into a first mate, into a boat captain for one of the major races, whether it's the Halifax or the Bermuda or the Mackinac or the Ida Lewis or the Vineyard or the Block Island race.
How terrific.
John, apropos all of that, John Lammerts Van Buren asks, Dawn, could you share a short list of female sailors for the 37th America's Cup and your thoughts why, again, not a single woman is on any of the teams, the AC40 women's event notwithstanding or aside, but you having participated on a team that was an all-female team that almost, I was with Dennis's team in 95, and you almost beat us in the trials, in the defense trials, which would have, presumably you would have gone on and beaten John Marshall's team and gone to the match. And of course, you were part of the winning team, of Bill Koch's winning team in 1992. Why are there no women on any of the current America's Cup teams? John Lammerts Van Buren is asking from the Netherlands.
Thanks a lot, John. I don't know exactly why. I do know why. Because women need to be in the decision-making roles. And I'm not going to go through the whole long story, but when I saw the release of the Women for American Magic, it's a super powerful group. And instead, at first I was like, wow, that's great. And they're missing a few. So that means that they had a really deep pool to pull from in America. And my second thought was, why the hell are none of these people on the real team? Why are they relegated to the women and children's event?
What about strength to weight ratio? What about those
that's
issues? Tell us why that's BS.
Because we had team workout today. Ethan beat me, but most of the time I'm beating the other guys. If you're physiologically, if you're a female and you're the same height, the same weight, and the same body fat, which is possible because men are short and women can be tall as well, you're the same strength. So, and also the strength of the helms people and the flight controllers are not a factor.
Exactly. Okay. Julie, do you have any views on all that?
Oh, I agree with that. I mean,
Okay, I'm going to put you and Dawn's proverbial feet to the fire because you are a firm believer that there should not be a person on the boat relegated or designated for a female or a male.
yeah,
It should be open, and that women can and should win and will earn their right onto the boat. Dawn, what do you think of that, of Julia's view? Is that a dated view, or is that still correct, or what do you think?
So the view is that there should be no quotas?
Yeah.
Okay, so sure, in a perfect world, but the kickstarting of the Volvo Ocean Race when they had the 7, 9, or 11 was brilliant because it allowed you to have what was seen as smaller, but definitely were less experienced because they had never been given the opportunity or never, the door, forget given, the door wasn't open for them to smash through it. So they just didn't have the experience. So that was groundbreaking. What Sail GP is doing, they need to kickstart it more, make it a little more sincere. But I will tell this story. I was at the Sail GP opening announcement of the team with Rome Kirby and Russell Coots in New York Harbor, and each person introduced themselves, and it was with sponsors and donors and media and a few VIPs. And Everybody, politely clapped. Rome Kirby's father was in the America's Cup. When Hans Henken said, actually, it was my mother who taught me how to sail, literally the crowd went wild. So I
nice.
pointed that out firmly to Russell, and I said, this is not me being a pain in the ass trying to tell you what to do. This is the money. This is your audience. This is how you are trying to make this a business. You need women in the mix.
Yeah.
Julia?
Yeah, I agree. I was just flashed on Miss Swift. Just brought.
Well, Dawn, I don't know if you ever met my late great mother, just passed away here in the past couple months, and she was a huge fan of yours. She crewed for my dad in the 1960s something Rebel. Remember the Rebel, the 16-foot fiberglass boat that was built in Toledo and big bathtub?
I've seen photos.
They're still active. I think on Lake Pontiac and Clark Lake outside of Jackson and around the Midwest on the lakes and so on. But she crewed for my dad. They won the Nationals. I don't think they ever won a race. They took all seconds, but she was a tough, hard-nosed gal who loved to sail, as did my grandmother. And my grandmother basically told my grandfather, this back in the the 40s and 50s, told him where to go.
As it were.
As it were. And there's obviously no reason. When I was as the spokesperson for various America's Cup campaigns and teams, the stock answer was, well, there aren't any women on the boat now, but there's no reason why there can't be and will be. And okay, it's the stock answer. But another point, which I think is made by John Sangmeister's son, he's on here, AKA Bing Bong. Let me go back and find his comment. That's the youngest of the three Sangmeister kids, William. And he's saying, if you brought real boats back to the America's Cup, women would be on them. And that's my next, I'm going to go to the America's Cup. It's a nice segue to go to the America's Cup segment, Dawn. What do you think of William Sangmeister's comment about bringing real boats back to the America's Cup?
We desperately need the young people to say that repeatedly and loudly, and that is true. I understand the attempt and what's going on, and there's always never underestimate the motivation of self-interest, or however that goes, to try to stay in the same boat if you're one in that same boat. But you need also to be able to see the faces, to understand the humility, the effort, the drama, the athletics of the sport, or otherwise we're going right back to video games.
Agreed.
Wow. That sums up the views of a whole lot of people that watch this show, as you probably know, the FOSI. Not everybody. There's a fair few. I mean, Andrew Pindar's on here as and John Emmett, for that matter, strong supporter of foiling.
I didn't say foiling was bad. I just said that for the America's Cup, for the epitome of our sport, we want to say it's a sport. You guys talked about earlier, you saw the plays, but what got the airtime was the romantic kiss.
Right.
So you need to know that there are people there. It's not just robots. And I think you know more about car racing than I do, but they're not like, the audio is critical because you're hearing the effort, but you're barely even hearing the audio from the boats. You need to see the faces.
Couldn't agree more. It's RoboCops.
Yeah.
It's RoboCops in Kevlar and helmets and so on. William Sangmeister's summing up. He's agreeing with Ed Worley, who's down in SoCal, made a comment. Ed was with the Newport Harbor team way back in the 86, 87 campaign. He's saying, Ed Worley is speaking straight facts. If the AC actually wants women on the boats, they need a boat where people are actually doing crew work. Dawn.
Yes, if you want people on the boats, you need to have crew work. This is back to before when we were in the multi-hulls. I was at a World Yacht Racing Forum, and there was a design meeting alongside that, and one person, it might have been Juan Kumajan, he's like the bad boy child of yacht design, but totally brilliant. And he said he was saying we don't need people anymore. We're just going to have the autopilots, the lift, the foiling, the electronic controls, which is absolutely possible. That's a really freaking expensive remote control boat.
No, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on the Cup, Dawn? I'm going to show this video. We had this massive crash of the LRPP AC-40 and the kids, the pup squad or the youth squad as they were called. Anything else about the current edition of the Cup on which you want to comment?
Even though I may sound negative on the type of boats, I'm absolutely going to be watching, and I love the intrigue, the intensity of the America's Cup. If you said you could only do one type of an event, that would be it.
If you're just joining us, we're an hour into the show. We'll let Dawn go here in a few minutes because she is a busy leader in our sport and at Oakcliff Sailing in Oyster Bay, New York. 1,400 here in San Francisco. I hope you're enjoying having this show. Number, what is it, Julia? 685.
685.
Yeah, we're going to be to 700 shows, Dawn. We're getting too old to do this. You need to find a you should take this over from me and then find a co-host, young or old, because Julia and I are getting too old to do this. We're gonna really retire at some point.
That's what.
Did I mention that I'm turning 60? There may be a fundraising campaign around that. So anybody who wants to donate to Oakcliff Sailing to honor my birthday, which happens to be on the Monday of the 100th running of the Bayview Mackinac, you are welcome.
So that's in July.
Yes.
Cool stuff. Okay, well, let's show this video from Colliery this morning.
Oh, ouch.
The kids on the AC-40. A lot of you sent this to me, saw it on their Facebook page. I'll run it again. Dawn, had you seen this?
No, and watch the person in the aft side of that cockpit.
That's brutal. I mean, somebody's overboard.
But look at that. That is him in pain.
Yeah. I'm going to show it one more time here. Stop motion. Didn't we? Was there somebody? I'll go back. Hey, this is just like.
No, what? I don't think so. I think they're harnessed in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
That's just not fun to watch. Especially when you see that there's got to have been an injury there.
One more time. Bloody hell. Bing Bong saying goofy ass boats. Okay.
Yeah, everything we do here, whether it's the high performance, whether it's the offshore, even the match racing, there's got to be a safety element. And we need to be able to, we don't need to injure people to go sailing and have, a great event.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You agree, Julia?
Absolutely. I'm the biggest chicken in the world.
Well, you're a cruiser. You did a lot of cruising, a lot of blue water sailing.
Yeah, blue water.
But I always look at you, Julia, and my mother, who was also a huge America's Cup fan. She practically, when she met Dennis Conner, did I ever tell you the story, Dawn? We were in San Diego. My mother was there. I was with Dennis's team, I guess, in 95. It may have been the 92 Cup when I was running that one. And Dennis was not a fan of mine because he perceived that I had brought in Bill Koch. I'd help bring him in for sure. But nonetheless, we all piled into an elevator at the convention center. My mother, myself, I can't remember who else, and Dennis was there. And my mother was not shy. She's a typical Michigander, grew up in a Norwegian family up in the UP and then up near Traverse City, up in Northport, Michigan, up at the, you can tell somebody from Michigan, right, Don? Because we all hold our hands up, and Northport, as you know, is right up at the tip of the little finger.
Yep.
See, Julia?
Yep, I know.
We walked into the elevator, and my mother walked over to Dennis and said, "Oh, Mr. Connor, I'm so happy to meet you. I'm Tom's mom." And Dennis, without missing a beat, said, "Oh, I didn't know Tom had a mom."
Well, he was quick.
He is quick. And bless his heart, the next morning, that made, my mother thought it was hilarious. She was not offended. But the next morning, he called at the house. She was staying with us. She called at the house. He called at the house to apologize to me, saying, "Hey, I hope I didn't hurt your mother's feelings. That was cretonic," or he didn't say cretonic, but he would have, maybe if he knew the word. Bless his heart. So yeah, I always use Julia and my mom as pretty good, I think, barometers about watching the America's Cup. There's no women involved. I mean, we've got women officials, at least in the NBA. We've got women officials in the NFL. We've got women officials, I don't know in baseball or not, but plus there are plenty of women in our sport at all other levels, including SailGP. Thanks to people like Jan O'Malley and the late, great Helen Ingerson and Dawn and people all over the world and people like Andrew Pindar and the Magenta Project and Tracy and yada, yada, yada. But if there are no women involved, and if you can't see them, the personalities, and if we don't talk about the designers and the owners and see them like you do, I mean, as you said, what's her name, Swift, is a personality, is a part of the show. The owner, Mr. Hunt Jr. now, whoever the kid is that owns the Kansas City Chiefs, it's all part of the scene and part of the show, but we can't even see the players in our sport because they're RoboCops. Back to your original point.
Yep. You said RoboCops. I said I just want to have people. Again, humans.
You did.
And the story.
What's wrong with RoboCops?
I don't know. Seems weird. Anyway.
Well, it's true. My mother always said, "God, I like to see those guys in the rugby shirts and the white short shorts." And it was interesting. Mr. Turner,
Yes.
people walking on the boats, real people. Okay, Dawn, let's get to the thing everybody wants to talk about, and that is the Olympics. And with 164 days to go now, less than that, I think, till the Paris 2024 Olympics, U.S. sailing has had to use the French word, shocker. Is that a shocker?
I'm not sure that's actually French, but okay.
It's not actually French. It's, we usually anglicize words, but I think that's a francophone.
Yeah, I think so.
We've Frenchized, I don't know what the right word is, of an English word, shocker, which is, Dawn, you have to admit, it's an America's Cup term of art. We use that in the America's Cup. But, and it's not just in the last couple of years, it's over the last 3+ quadrenniums that U.S. sailing has had a shocker. What's going on and what's the solution?
Well, as you know, we posted on our website in Oakcliff Sailing under the About a results of a summit. And the New York Yacht Club and the Sailing Foundation of New York had a fundraiser in August, which was in the middle of this year of chaos, about 6 months after the Paul Kayard leaving. And it happened to be an opportunity with a lot of individuals in the space anyway. And so a few of us took the lead and organized essentially a summit. And it was strategically invited people, and like Tom Pace came in from Pensacola, we had people from San Francisco, St. Francis, so a lot of different places, people that were there, just with the idea of saying, this is a mess, how can we all work together, and how can we not duplicate efforts, because the Olympics is hard. It is complicated. Yes, it's expensive, but it's actually more than just the money. It's the organization, it's the leadership, it's setting the tone, it's providing the pathway, the training, helping the parents that may be sailors or maybe are not sailors, that their child has learned through high school sailing, that there is sailing in the Olympics, and they happen to be somebody who's motivated and driven to go there. So we sat around a table. There's a spreadsheet. We talked to the athletes that were there. I think there was 23 athletes that were represented and got to go to the party, but I brought them into the room and trapped them and picked their brains, which was so refreshing to hear their perspective and what they wanted to hear. So we got some insights. There was one Ilka sailor from the Midwest who said he didn't even know that sailing was in the Olympics, and now he's trying to do an Olympic campaign. But when he was growing up, he didn't know. Why? Because it's been so long since we've had a medal, therefore visibility or something to celebrate. So it was there as a fact-finding, collaborative way to come up with something. We then circulated it, got input, circulated it to U.S. Sailing as well. They chose not to participate, and I put it on the back burner. After the lawsuit dropped, I went to the National Sailing Program Symposium. I've talked to Marcus Lynch, who seems to have some legs. It was a very good conversation, but...
Hang on. Marcus Lynch is the German gentleman who was a coach for the German...
he's British. He was with the British team, and then he was the German coach.
Right. Oh, he's British.
And he did well. He's very versatile. He's done a lot. He knows a lot of people, which is part of the game. You can't hire the best coaches if you don't know who they are. So he's been out there. He's been he's done an Olympic campaign himself. It was a very good conversation.
But hang on, he is now, I've set the stage for maybe not everybody on here knows.
Sorry.
So he being a Brit who then went and coached in Germany and did well, helped apparently elevate that program, has now been hired as the high performance director for U.S. Sailing, including...
I think he's actually the high performance coach. It might be high performance director, but the bottom line is he's in charge of the operations and the sailing.
Meaning the Olympics. He's in charge of our Olympic sailing program. Yeah, okay, good. Carry on, please.
Right. So anyway, so there's been some good conversation, but I realize I've been sitting on this. Actually, if I move this way, you can see behind me, there's the spreadsheet and there's the helix. We've had this information, the helix, which is super useful for parents trying to figure out where their children will go, or athletes trying to figure out what the pathway is to get up to the Olympic level. We have this information, and I was frustrated that so many people put so much work into it, and it's a living and breathing document. We're happy to update it and take other points of view, but it needs to be out there for America. And we purposely did not say the U.S. Olympic team. We said America's Olympic team because we wanted it to be everybody. And one of the advantages that we have as a country is we are vast. We have so many resources. We have so many community sailing programs and yacht clubs and individuals and donors that are trying to make a difference. It hasn't been led properly. So this is a graphic way in the spreadsheet and a narrative way in the results to try to kickstart that and get us moving quicker, because LA Olympics are not very far away. Wow. I was just out in LA after the world's shortest cruise ship trip, and it was at Long Beach Yacht Club, had dinner with Justin Palm and Joe and Dave Murray, toured some of the sites, and just got my head around what it looks like out there, where the Olympics going to actually be, because I want to be able to be a resource for athletes that need some coaching as to the logistics and the sailing and the training and the cost of living, all of those things that are super important, that we can't just say, go get a medal, hire a star, and then you're going to have success. It's a long, convoluted, complicated process.
Well, and especially, you've touched on it now, the fundraising. And Justin Palm, who's another good Michigan boy, good friend from Balboa Yacht Club, Long Beach, and so on, who's at one point saw the light and came out here for the nice weather in California. But you got to raise money. And KARD and America One were raising money and did raise a lot of money. And then, of course, when Paul fell out with U.S. Sailing and the non-sailing CEO, he either got pushed out or walked away or both. And with him went the money because he had raised a lot of it. People were upset. So unfortunately, or depending upon where you stand, not you personally, but where we all stand on this, the money went away. Now U.S. Sailing has not much money, hence the lawsuit, hence the turmoil. And amazingly, I didn't realize it until I saw the report, America One has raised still a fair bit of money and is pushing money out to the coaches and the teams and quite a few others, and just pressing on regardless.
I would caution everybody, and I know that your followers are very active and passionate and involved. I would caution about any platitudes. Paul Care didn't raise, yes, I believe that Paul and Billy Rue and that group raised more money than before, but that's not a very high bar. When they left, not all of the money went. The press releases that are resulting from the lawsuit are some fact and some spin. My point is, I think the most important thing, it's a cop-out if you say we just need money.
Oh,
It's not.
I totally agree. Quite agree.
So a lot of people focus on, well, the money's gone, U.S. sailing's broke. That's not true. The Olympic side, I'm sure, is painful and struggling, and there's the lawsuit. There is also the whole USOPC side of things. There is also, there's a fair amount, if you read the letter in that document, that you're like, okay, there is some actionable items allegedly, but it just makes you want to scream and shout and say, why the F were you not talking about this on March 5th or whatever it was? Hi,
That's
River.
a nice doggy. What's the name of the dog?
River.
Oh, River.
Yes.
So, Dawn,
So why were you not talking about this and coming up with the solutions in March? Why are we a year later and we're still in a worse position than we were before? No other country is sitting around doing nothing, and that's what's been happening too much. And it's not because of the people on the ground. I mean, the whole U.S. sailing staff is Sally, Tina, and Kate. I mean, that's tiny. And America One is using other coaches that are part-time. So you can't say they say that they say they have 20 coaches. They're not full-time, and they're not doing the structural and logistics side. They're doing the coaching on the water. So again, I implore people to take the time to go to the website and read and look at the spreadsheet. It will help educate you on how complicated it is, and hopefully inspire you as how you can participate in getting our American athletes into a better position.
Yeah, well, we certainly agree. And we are here going to do a series of, aren't we, Julia, of what we're going to call Road to Marseille, and get various teams on that want to come on to help pitch for some money, because they have a lot of local, so hopefully they will develop more and more local supporters, and also then give them some video, some assets that they can take and use with their supporters and their sponsors and so on. But if you were U.S. Sailing, if you were the non-sailing CEO or the president, if you were Rich Jepson, what would you be doing now immediately?
I would be settling the lawsuit. I would be opening up my computer and getting on the phone and making a plan that was fresh, new, transparent. They are the NGB. If they were in the state of California, there's sunshine laws, we would know exactly what's going on.
Yep.
I have looked at the 990s. I can see different things that can be spun two ways, but I have the luxury of being more involved than most people, with a little bit of a finance background from what we do and understanding nonprofit accounting and 990s. And it still took me a long time to try to figure out what's going on. And you can get down into the details. It needs to be a straightforward, clear communication. I am sure, because I know Paul, and he probably hasn't liked me a lot of the time. I am sure that there were mistakes made. I know Billy Rue. I know how passionate he is. I'm sure he said some things that he wishes he hadn't. I know that U.S. Sailing is struggling, and it is not, unless the CEO woke up every single day, immersed himself in the sport. I'm not going to give you the kudos, Tom, say watch your show every day, but read Scuttlebutt every day, read the rule book, read the bylaws, read Seahorse Magazine, Sailing World Magazine, until he understood what all of those words meant and how all the connections are. You can't be an effective leader. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. And I know it's going to stir up some crap, but you need to live, eat, and breathe. I've been working here at this desk till 9 o'clock every night this week. And that was Wiz, our bookkeeper, who's also a sailor. We sailed to Jamaica together. She's a sailor, and she cleans the floor on Fridays. We have it's too big of a job to not be immersed in it and love it and passionate about it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's nothing. I do have to say one
You
thing.
have been
I'm trying to
watching.
stay positive.
You have been watching the show, Dawn.
No, I have not. I am working too hard. I have to say one thing. Alan is not a bad person. Rich is not a bad person. Alan is very successful in a different sport where he had a different role. We in sailing look to the CEO to be a spokesperson and a leader and visual and there and interactive, and we should be able to, we feel like, right or wrong, we should be able to call him on the phone and say, hey, I got an idea, and move through things. It's a different part of a type of sport. But when I was on the board, the offshore office was the thing that everybody complained about. Andrew Clouston and Chris and oh God, from the Midwest and Jim Teeters, they're doing a great job in offshore. They now have a database where your boat has a unique ID that you can go in and do things online. The education department is working. So there are things that are working really well. This is not a complete thing. On the Olympic side, it's a problem.
Well, you know, our view, my view, Julia's view is that I think U.S. Sailing, when I ran it, and the late great John Bonds and others ran it since I did in the 80s, early 80s, is that it has grown like Topsy. It's tried to be the AAA, or in Michigan, you'd call it the Secretary of State's office. Out here, we call it the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, which is a mess. And we need, I agree, they're all good people. We've never impugned their integrity even. It's just, I agree with you. I think I will hear you saying that we need somebody as the CEO, executive director, who, like you, is a sailor, who, like Brad Reed, is a sailor, who, like Billy Lynn, is a sailor.
Or becomes a really, really, really obsessive quick study, right?
Yeah.
Because there are things. Now I am going to, Julie, I am going to blow smoke for Tom. I was at the Women's Sports Foundation, and I was talking to an equestrian and a gymnast and a swimmer and probably 5 different sports. And I said, actually, one of them started to complain about their NGB. There's a skier there too, and I said, wait a minute, we're having problems. And then everybody started to compare notes. All of the NGBs have challenges and have problems, and we're all trying to learn from each other. I think what happened was when we had you and Charlie Layton and Bill Martin, the sport of sailing is rich with capitalist, successful, driven people that are passionate. And when they had time, our NGB was up here. Instead, we've just tried to copy the other ones, and we've come down equal to them. So I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, that we're the same as everybody else, but I believe that our sport, with all the facets and the people and the passion and the resources, can and should do better.
Julia.
I look at this, and I'm sure we've all been through this, but they've forgotten that the strength and the value of volunteers, and giving responsibility to local, instead of saying, "Oh no, you can't do that." What do you mean? I've been doing this my whole life. They're honoring and using the wisdom of volunteers is not being done right now.
Which Dawn is exactly what you're doing at Oakcliff. It's exactly what we used to do when I was at the place. The volunteers ran the place. The staff supported the work of the volunteers. It was unbelievably cool how many people. And now the staff at the top in Bristol, Rhode Island, are running the place, and it's kind of a top down instead of a bottom up. But I think you just summed it up beautifully, Dawn. You want to?
Yes.
I told you we'd hold you for as long as you wanted to talk, but it's been an hour and a half. Do you want to sum it up?
Sure.
Sure.
It's hard to sum up everything we're doing here and everything I see for the future. As I said, we're building American leaders through sailing. The Olympics is a very small part of our sport, but it is a very visual international part, and it is a pure competition, and I think we can do better. I encourage people to look at the oakcliffsailing.org website, go to the About, you can see the Helix, you can see this information. We don't make money doing this. Our job as a nonprofit is to give back, and this is part of what we're giving back. I also hope that while everybody's there, they will look at the other programs, because we do have opportunities that are phenomenal, life-changing, human-building opportunities to try to go to the Olympics, to do the match racing, to go on to do the ocean race, the America's Cup. It's so much energy. I want everybody to be here, but I want people to understand and try to find the positive solutions as opposed to just be negative about what's wrong. That's old school. Let's be new school. Let's be fresh air. Let's move forward.
Perfectly said. And Rick Bannero, who you will know well from now he's in Connecticut, saying, and he's replying to a comment by Clark Chapin there in Michigan. He's saying, if you call Oakcliff before or after hours, you usually don't get the answering system. In fact, Dawn will frequently answer the main phone. Yes. Leadership, by example, is a rare commodity, and Dawn has leadership skills in spades. Well done, Dawn.
Thank you.
And it's spot on, and that's what we need. We need that kind of person in the chair in Bristol, Connecticut, or Rhode Island, rather. It is a Bristol, Connecticut, too, but in Bristol, Rhode Island. The sooner we get it, the better off we'll be. And hopefully people will now go look at your document on your website. You call it the Helix document?
There's the Helix, which I was using a term calling it the parking garage. You know how you just keep going up looking for your parking spot in your Olympic path? And a very bright person who actually now works at U.S. Sailing said, can we come up with a better term? So we designed it like the Helix, like the DNA Helix. And then we have the actual drop down says leadership for Olympic sailing. And that was the summit results and spreadsheet.
Cool stuff. Another fan of yours in Cleveland, I don't think you know her, Julie Ahrens, is saying it's called commitment, or what Dennis maybe used to call the commitment to the commitment. Dawn Riley, thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on. Julia?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Ever onward.
Ever onward. Thank you, ma'am. We'll talk soon, as we do. Dawn and I do talk every now and then. When there's a development, we'll get on the horn together and get a few others. And anything I can do to help you and your cause, Dawn, please let me know. And especially Oakcliff and match racing.
Spread the word, send your young people, and donate freely.
Ciao for now.
Bye.
Bye. See you. Julia, you got to admit, a pretty special person.
Absolutely. Pretty
nice to have people like that in our sport. And, she probably is a volunteer. Okay, she's heading up, she's like a yacht club commodore, or she's community sailing executive director, but she's a volunteer for U.S. Sailing and for a great many things in our sport.
You're right. We
need a whole bunch more of her, and we need them to be, she's self-empowered. She's a tower of power, but people want to help, but they feel like they're being told what to do from
people
Bristol.
Volunteer because they're asked.
Right. Well, as the former head of the National
Center for Voluntary Action.
Voluntary Action in Washington, D.C.
Da, da, da.
Okay, that was Dawn Riley live from Oakcliff in Oyster Bay, New York, the executive director of that esteemed sailing center there, just now called Oakcliff or Oakcliff Sailing. And David James will give him the final comment. Marine Images. Thank you, Graham. Saying, Dawn is one of your best interviews. Ed Worley wants to know, how do sailors contribute to Oakcliff? Go to their website, Oakcliff Sailing. It's easy, just Google it. And they are a 501c3. So if you're in this country, I don't know about you, Graham, over there in Scotland, but in this country, contributions are tax deductible to the extent of the law, permitted by law. Anyone who doesn't like Dawn needs to go see a doctor. John Lambert's Van Buren has added. Finally, David James, I was going to let him be the final comment, but they're rolling in here. A change is brought about because ordinary people do extraordinary things. Blake Middleton, I totally agree, Dawn, is magic. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
Tip O'Neill, famous, he and Ronald Reagan were the last two great, I think, leaders, Democrat, Republican leaders in this country. Tip from late great Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House from Boston. People like to be asked and they like to be thanked. Okay, what happened, Julie, on this day in history? We're going to do this for our friends down under, where it's the 14th.
Celebrate Valentine's Day.
Not just Valentine's Day, but yeah, there was some Valentine's action. I looked into all that and I couldn't find anything interesting. But apparently,
St. Valentine.
well, depending upon who you ask, St. Valentine's, there were a number of different martyred saints who may have or may not have been
Yes.
put to death on the 14th, and who knows. But what happened in 1779 on the 14th, where it is down under, it is the 14th for those of you in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore, and China, and further.
79 was the French Revolution,
Was it?
and
You better wait for some clues here. You're getting off on a bit of a tangent there.
mhm.
There is a clue.
That doesn't look like the French Revolution.
Well, it could be. It could be Napoleon's brother, tall brother.
Right.
He's got his tunic. He's got his vest open a bit. He might stick his hand in there.
Yeah.
The first royal. Plenty of rooting down under today. Yeah, it is the 14th down under, so we thought this gentleman would be appropriate. That is Jody Shields. You must know what's going on. Who is this guy? Everybody down under knows who this is. Thank you, Tom Pace, for your kind comment. That is Captain James Cook,
Oh, didn't recognize him.
who lived. What years did he live, Julia?
1728, 1779.
1779. What happened? Mutiny on the Bounty. No. Replying today, a local to Hawaii. Alan Long's got it. Alan Long. Cook. Ryman has the comment of the day. Cook was cooked. Julie Ahrens. Cook was cooked. 1779. That's a portrait, that famous portrait. We've used it, I don't know, any number of times. You see it on Wikipedia and beyond. Nathaniel Dance Holland, circa 1775. He was eaten alive. I don't know if he was actually eaten, but he was taken apart. This is another famous painting. This is by John Weber, a Brit who painted it in the year of apparently circa 1779, called The Death of Captain Cook. Yeah, Bannerow saying he was more like he was poached.
Oh, gosh. Oh, stop it.
What? What's wrong? Give him a little finger wag if you don't like.
Oh,
David James, as usual, probably got it first. But here is on 14th Feb, English explorer Captain James Cook attempted to kidnap. How do you pronounce that king's name?
Kailani Opu'u.
Kalani Opu'u, the ruling chief, the Ali'i Nui on the island of Hawaii. The decision to hold him in exchange for a stolen longboat was the fatal error. Now, apparently Cook had left Hawaii, but guess what? He broke one of his masts. He broke a foremast or something in his wrist. So he went back to get some wood to repair his mast, apparently. So just let there be a lesson there. Don't break your mast.
Yeah.
And if you do, don't go back to Hawaii. The decision to hold him in exchange, that is the king, for a stolen longboat was the fatal error of Cook's final. Apparently, the Hawaiians, when he went back, stole one of his longboats. And that led to his death at, can you pronounce that for us?
Kalia.
Kealakekua.
Yeah,
I had to look it up.
yeah.
Kealakekua
Kua
Bay.
Yeah.
That led to Cook's death. Now, where on the Hawaiian Islands, in the Hawaiian Islands, is that bay, Kealakekua?
I have no idea.
You don't? Well, it's a good thing I checked it this morning. It's on the Big Island, which is also called that's called the island of Hawaii.
Yeah.
Right, the Big Island.
Right.
And it's a bay there on the west side.
Oh, and yeah. Okay.
And Kealakekua in that bay.
Oh, yes, I've been there. There's a park there.
And there's a big park you can see in the green.
Yeah.
And there's the Captain James Cook Monument. In fact, the name of the town nearby is Captain Cook. There's
Yeah.
the Captain Cook Monument Trail. It's a bit of a deal.
Yep.
So that happened on the 14th of Feb. And there's a monument right there near this spot where Captain Cook met his death, February 14th, 1779. So that's what happened on this day in history in 1779. The king and his men, and maybe women, took him away. You know who supposedly witnessed it?
Ooh.
The captain, the two boats. He was traveling with two boats,
Yeah.
Destiny and whatever, the two boats. Captain Bligh was the captain of the other boat and was supposedly out there with a long, watching it all
never saw
from
that.
his boat.
Yeah.
And according to some of the stuff I've read, supposedly witnessed it and said he was the last one to see because he was out on the boat high up and he could see in his, what do you call, in his, what do you call that long thing? Not binoculars, but
A telescope.
not a telescope. Come on, it was somebody to help us out. But he was carried away and never to be seen again. Hanfield is right. Apparently, Captain Cook also is famous for curing. He realized that it was some kind of a vitamin and food deficiency. He had fresh air for all the crew aboard. He kept the crew compartments.
Scurvy.
But he had a cure for scurvy, and he had them some kind of a fruit, vitamin C type thing. Eyepiece. Thank you, Andrew Pinder. Spyglass. That was the word I was looking for.
Ah, yes.
Spyglass.
Eyepiece.
So Cook's arrival in Hawaii was eventually followed by mass migrations, this is bigger picture long term, of Europeans and Americans for better or worse, that gave rise to the overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii and the Aboriginal monarchy of the islands by pro-American elements beginning in 1893. Julia, your favorite island, your favorite state.
Yeah,
You miss it dearly, don't you?
I do.
Chris Fury down in why he knows this. He's saying Valentine's Day also marks the birthday of Mary Longpree, one of our favorite Fozy.
Oh, good.
Super snapper photographer down in Newport Beach, maybe in Sedona, Arizona, who spends a lot of time down under when she can. So that's this day in history. And finally, which usually in the A block or the B block anyway, we usually have our Coach's Corner. And finally today here in the C block, we have John Emmett with his report. He is now home. He's left Adelaide.
Is he?
Yep, he finished third. So bravo Zulu to him. And here is the Coach's Corner report from our Super Fozy John Emmett for today.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. As you might be able to tell, I'm back at Imberhorn Farm, although it is what you might literally call a flying visit. Got the unfortunately very unfinished looking granary in the background, so just trying to get on top of the farm work and all the rest of it. Although it does feel like winter has finally passed while I've been away in Mar del Plata and Argentina. So a bit of a time to sort of think back and the future of our sport and what went well and what went wrong. I think one of the biggest things, obviously, given the conditions in Adelaide, well, it'd be nice to be a bit taller, but you can insert your own joke there, is about the fitness side of things, which is incredibly important in sailing, and injury prevention. And for sure, that's probably going to be the thing in the future that may stop me going sailing, because I want to make sure that, in later life, don't have any long-term health issues. And I do think it's hard for the full-time sailors if you're, smashing races in 25 knots and sailing full-time, when you go and, for lack of a better phrase, end up doing a proper job and you're not sailing full-time and you can't compete at that level. It must be very hard, and I think that's why for those elite performers, sadly, sometimes when they stop the sport, they stop sailing completely. And I think you see it with swimmers. We've got people on 10,000 calories a day, something ridiculous. When they stop competing, if they're not very careful, they will gain a lot of weight. And we had it with Steve Redgrave, who's 5 Olympic gold medalists from the UK consecutive games, and was actually Paul Goodison's mentor. He went and did running and things after, because he didn't want there to be a special condition called the Steve Redgrave syndrome for somebody who trained flat out for 30 years of their life and then stopped. But the thing, I think the Masters is fantastic because it keeps people in the fleet for a long time, and it is a bit scary how quickly 20 odd years went. So Simon I was racing against, I was sort of sailing against him before the Sydney campaign. I was working as sort of training partner for Shirley Robertson and Ben Ainsley and Paul Goodison and Simon, that were sailing sort of lasers at the same time. And actually Simon was a Youth World Champion, so it's funny he's won the Youth Worlds and the Masters, and it just shows that that talent stays. My analogy, I don't know if you think it's a good one, it's a bit like riding a bike. You definitely don't forget how to ride a bike, but your legs definitely get sore if you haven't done it for a while. The thing I noticed with the Masters fleet though is this gradual increase in age. So a few years ago, the largest fleet was the Masters fleet, and then more recently, the Grand Masters fleet was the largest, and now it's only a matter of time, I think, before the Great Grand Masters fleet gets the biggest, as it's the same people moving up, and that's obviously why that fleet has the most general recalls because most boats squeeze on a start line. It's not that they haven't had 30 years of starting practice or whatever, but yeah, that's interesting. And when you get to legends, it's not surprising that's the smallest fleet, or indeed super legends, that's just 2. And I do hope in years to come, there'll be a valid World Championships for the next categories up. I forget what that is, maybe 30 boats, 2 continents, 7 countries, something like that. The big struggle we have is actually the Apprentice Masters, so those 30-year-olds to 45. That's why that category was made bigger, because with just 35 to 45, we couldn't really get the numbers, and the fleet actually races with the Masters. Although a lot of the time, the Master sailors were in front of the apprentices. Thailand was an interesting one. We had Victoria from Lithuania, who's still trying to qualify for Olympics, was racing there, as was Bo from Hong Kong, still trying to qualify for the Olympics. They were doing those events. And then this year we had Svenja from Germany, who's an ex-Olympian. She did Tokyo, and she was 2014 European champion. I remember that very well in Split, because I was 3rd in the Ilka 6s men's. Chloe was 3rd in the Ilka 6 women's, and Nick, so that's Nick Thompson, and Chloe Martin was 3rd in the Ilka 7, so I figure the Brits were just at that sort of level, so it's nice to have somebody in the podium and in all the fleets. I also remember helping Marit Balmister load her trailer, and everything was going really well till we got to the top boat, and then it got a bit stressy and everything turned into Dutch, and I wasn't quite sure what I was meant to be doing, but yeah, there we go. Funny to think those events were such a long time ago, and it's really nice to see somebody like Svenja come back in the fleet. And obviously she was complaining her hiking legs hurt. I think all our hiking legs hurt, and she was still very quick downwind. So I think having that focal point, bringing people back together, makes a big difference, and especially when we go to fantastic places like Adelaide or wherever. I mean, it was just absolutely textbook sailing, and the volunteers, I don't think I could have said it enough, were absolutely amazing. But yeah, this idea of keeping people in the sport, I think when I was young, we sort of lost a few people at that university age where they went off and did team racing. Maybe lost is the wrong word, and then start up a job or families. So there's a missing number of people, but that gap has got a lot bigger. So sometimes you might lose people from youth level and they don't come back until they've got junior sailors themselves. I mean, I think university sailing is wonderful, but I don't think it necessarily helps so much with your Olympic sailing. I think it just keeps people in the sport. Although I used to have an awful lot of fun doing the team racing, especially the drinking racing. So you have 6 people in your Firefly team, and then you all line up and down your beer and put it on your head when you finish with an empty glass. And we used to get down to about 42 seconds for those people who read Douglas Adams. That's the answer to everything. But yeah, that keeping people in the sport, when people are focused on career or family or financial and time issues, that's an important thing, because when we look at the sailing clubs as well, the average age just seems to creep up a little bit, and my living is very much, I'm still looking for Olympic sailor at the elite end of the sport, and we're really close to the end of that cycle now. I'm off to the Europeans tomorrow. And then with that, there'll be 2 more Europeans places, and then what will happen, any European country who's already qualified at a Worlds, either the last 2 Worlds, that will roll down to the next 2. But I think I said on a previous show, there's probably 5 really fast boats, and there's only 2 spots, and then we're at and the last chance regatta. And then at the last chance regatta, there's only 1 sailor per unqualified country. So it stops, countries that have 4 sailors having a big advantage over countries which have 1. And there will be a normal SMM Olympic Francais regatta, but that will just be limited to 2 sailors per qualified country. And I guess they will hand out some extra places if available. So in the Ilka Sixes, maybe you'll get 2 or 3 Brits or 2 or 3 Australians or whatever. But it really feels like the beginning of the end of the season, and I said 2024, it's going to be an amazing year with America's Cup and Sail Grand Prix and lots more happening. But hope you've enjoyed the little feedback from the farm. I'm really enjoying doing the Coach's Corner because it makes me sit down and analyse everything carefully, and for me, a couple of rest days and then I'll be back in the boat. So time difference is currently my friend now, so I'll see you on the show.
John Emmett,
Nice.
another super report.
Yes.
We enjoy having him do the report.
Yes.
Get to the front of the fleet with John Emmett Sailing.
Wait, and did we formally congratulate him for his 3rd?
Oh, I said Bravo Zulu at the top, I think, of this
Yeah.
segment. Great report as usual, John. I'm glad you're home safely after your globe trekking. That Ted Ryman saying that as we pot down the audio. Have a quickie here from Sail GP. We're still a couple weeks away. It's not this coming weekend. It's the weekend after that they're back at it in Sydney. But I found a nice video today from the Canadian Sail GP team featuring an American. Not that I care that she's an American, but she happens to be Annie Hager, who I know not well, but she's a cool sailor. She's the strategist now for Team Canada. She was an Olympian for this country. A couple quads ago now. She's born in 90. She's from Wisconsin. And she sailed for Lake Beulah Yacht Club, her home club, also Lauderdale Yacht Club, and then went to school in Boston at Boston College, Julia.
Yes.
And a really cool video about featuring her from Sail GP and what the strategist on the Sail GP 50, the F50, in fact does. Have
Good.
a look.
Annie Hager. I'm the strategist on board the Sail GP team for Team Canada, and I'm going to walk you through what I do on board. My position's quite dynamic. Typically on the boats, there will be 6 people on board, and my role with 6 on board is I'm the strategist in the very back of the boat. So Phil Robertson's the driver. He's standing here driving the boat, and I'm behind, really focused on big picture strategy, trying to find where the pressure is, do the proper routing around the course to make sure that we're staying within the boundaries, minimizing maneuvers up the race course, as well as watching out for other boats. Finally, really focusing on the next move, so trying to think a step ahead. Another kind of role on my side, sitting in the back here, is I have this panel to help assist with jib trim. So whenever we're doing a hard maneuver, there's another grinder in the front of the boat whose main priority is the jib, but when he's head down and focused on making sure the wing sheet comes in, I'm in the back here using my buttons to kind of control what exactly the jib does, especially for roundups, when we're bearing off around the windward mark, and then also for pops as well. So when we're going H1, which means our hull is flying up in the water, to foiling, I'm on the back here making sure that the jib is matching the twist of the wing as well. One of my main priorities on the boat is really to make an eye out for other boats coming in fast. As you know, some of the boats can go up to 100 kilometers an hour, so the closing speeds are very fast, and making sure that I have an eye on the other boats is absolutely crucial to make sure we don't have another collision. It's happened in the past, so really it's on me to focus on making everybody safe around the course and making Phil aware of what's to come. So another piece of data that I have at my fingertips is the spring on the wing. It provides routing around the race course as well as, you know, time to lay line, time to boundary, and other kind of crucial bits of information, but there's a lot to digest. Phil's also taking a look at it, and he does a great job of being able to kind of extract what important information he needs when. But I'm there to kind of pick up the pieces in case I think that he's missing something that would help dictate what we do in the big picture. So one of my more prescriptive roles is on the start. I'm on time to kill.
2.5211817
essentially means the distance that this software says we have to drop back in order to not be over the starting line early. So you'll hear me constantly in the background.
2.52118171615.
Kind of, I'm just reading off the wing screen to make sure we're not over the starting line. Yeah, so that's my role on board on the F50. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, it's very dynamic, and I really having a lot of fun going fast.
I thought that was a particularly appropriate video given having Dawn on, the discussions that you and Dawn and I were having, but you and Dawn in particular. I thought it was a terrific video, and you know, okay, it's push-button sailing. Not all of us like that, but it's still sailing, and she's still, you know, yacht racing, trimming the jib and so on. But more importantly, the strategist is not just some bimbo back there, male or female.
Right.
She's got a lot to do,
Yep.
Annie Hager and all the others. Nice girl, well done. And oof, the software, Bill Sangmeister is saying, Wilson, he's really William, because who needs people who actually know how to do time on distance? Well, that's another point. That's another issue. Dennis Conner was famously good at doing time on distance, and he would bet you we'd be driving down the street or walking down the street. How long at this current pace? Now, how long will it take us to get to that sign? And he could name it.
That's great.
I mean, it was very impressive.
Yeah.
And he would do this on the back of the boat with Whidden and
Yeah.
Marshall and the rest of the gang. And anyway, I thought a really cool video. Annie Hager.
Yes,
Now,
it was good.
Julia, lest you think, and lest the others think we are not reading the comments, there is, I think the drinking word today has become rooting and routing. Routing. So get him to throw down some drinks. And there's a couple of comments back and forth between Gordon and Andrew. I won't name which ones, although you all can plainly see in the a couple of them are pretty funny too. I have to be entertained. Sail GP's coming up, not this coming weekend, but in the weekend after, 24th and 25th of Feb in Sydney. We'll be featuring a little more about that. Probably not this Friday, but next week, in any event. The KPMG, Australia Sail Grand Prix. KPMG, is that what I said?
Yep.
24th and 25th of Feb. Okay, gets us to the last leg. And apropos, I had to do something about Valentine's Day, Julia. That being already, some of you are celebrating it. And the history of Valentine's Day. And here is a very quick video for the last leg just to get us in the mood for Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day began in 270 AD when the Roman Emperor Claudius II didn't want men to marry during wartime because he believed single men made better soldiers. When Bishop Valentine went against his wishes and performed secret wedding ceremonies, he was jailed and later executed on February 14th. Behind Christmas, Valentine's Day is the single largest seasonal card-sending occasion. Teachers receive the most Valentine's Day cards, followed by children, mothers, wives, and then sweethearts. Women purchase approximately 85% of all gifts. The red rose was the favorite flower of Venus, the Roman goddess of love. The color red stands for strong romantic feelings, making the red rose the flower of love. 73% of flowers bought on Valentine's Day are purchased by men, while women only contribute to the other 27%. Worldwide, over 50 million roses are given for Valentine's Day each year. Over $1 billion worth of chocolate is purchased for the day in the U.S. More than 35 million heart-shaped boxes of chocolate will be sold for Valentine's Day. Each year, the city of Verona, Italy receives more than 1,000 Valentines addressed to Shakespeare's Juliet.
That's
More
fabulous.
than 9 million pet owners buy gifts for their pets. It is estimated that 15% of the women in the U.S. who receive flowers for Valentine's Day send them to themselves. Narrated by Dorian Douglas.
I laughed
animated
out
by
loud
Andre
when that
Preston,
last
and music
factoid
by
came up,
Carlos
when I was
Mejías.
looking at that, I guess, last night. Have you ever sent yourself a flower on Valentine's Day?
No.
That's croutonic, isn't
I've
it?
bought flowers for myself.
Oh, well, yeah. Oops, there's a black screen at the end of that video. Okay.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Whether you're already celebrating it down under or about to get into it, wherever in the world you are. I only have one Whiskey Tango Foxtrot today. Apropos that whole opening segment about football and the Super Bowl and everything else, this I thought you would all appreciate. And this came from, well, I'll tell you who. I sail because for golf, soccer, and tennis, you only need one ball. You don't like that? You can shake your finger if you want. I won't tell you who sent it until you shake your finger. And it's also true of baseball, basketball, and football, isn't it, Julia?
No, they use 16 footballs for every game.
Oh, that was good. That was a good comeback. I sail because you only need one ball for those other sports. I thought that was pretty. Is that a fin? What kind of boat is that?
I don't know.
Looks to me like a fin, but who knows? That was sent to us, Julia,
Well,
by your favorite.
Ted, yeah, he sends the best usually.
Huh?
He sends the best.
Thank you, Ted Ryman. Thank you for that. We only got one today. We're on just under 2 hours into the show, 14:55 here in San Francisco. Julia,
Sir,
please.
like, follow, and share, and read the comments.
Exactly. And the comments are welcome, even in replay. We do leave them there open. We're one of the few shows that does that because our people are not croutonic.
Yeah.
And if they are, Julia will go, she goes through them,
Yeah.
sitting up there tomorrow in the Commodore's suite. I say, have you watched the show, Julia? Have you gone through the comments? And it's one strike and you're out. You got to be a pretty special person for Julia to give you, if you make a croutonic comment, you
Yeah.
normally just block them.
Yeah.
One bad comment,
Yeah.
you're blocked. Good for
Yeah.
you. We don't tolerate it here. And we appreciate, I'll tell you what else we appreciate. We appreciate the Fozy
Absolutely. Yeah.
who self-police, who when they see a comment will go,
And I'll often get it before I will.
well, exactly, and we'll DM the person,
Yeah.
direct message the person, say, hey, that's not permitted and not
Yeah.
appreciated. Please,
Yeah.
erase it, delete it, modify it, edit it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Thank you, especially those of you who do support us via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Keeps us on the air. Julia, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just sort of dawned on me that sharing to your own list is a really good way of boosting our subscriptions.
Yeah, Facebook page and so on. Not that we're trying to make money from. We
We
don't.
don't make money from our subscriptions.
Yeah,
right?
well, we don't make money from either from YouTube or Facebook. We just up there. We appreciate all of you. We had a pretty good network. I'm looking at the network stats today. I had a couple problems. Thank you, Bill Sangmeister. It's always an epic show. Thank you, Jonathan Shore. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And we hope to see you on Friday. Maybe we'll do a little more testing in the meantime. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.